Hey guys, Kris here. In this video, I'm going to talk about why I think the interior in the Skoda Enyaq is better than the interior in the Volkswagen ID4. And for some reason, my opinion about this seems to be very controversial for a lot of people out there watching my videos. It all started with the first video I posted on this car, my range efficiency and charging test, where I got a lot of comments like, how can this possibly have a nicer interior when Skoda sits below Volkswagen in, well, the Volkswagen Group brand tier? Like, people were totally confused. And then I also started, discussing with a viewer called Jeremy Muren. It's all fun and a bit banter back and forth. No hard feelings from me and no hard feelings from him. But we ended up discussing a bit, and he wanted me to, well, make a video where I'm substantiating my claims, a bit. And I was going to dive deep into this in my review, and I probably am, but I wanted to make this separate video for you, Jeremy, because I just want to get this out of the way. And when I say something, I usually mean it. I can be wrong sometimes, but me having the opinion that this interior is better than the ID4, not only a little bit better, but much better, well, I'm going to show you guys that in today's video. Before we take a step inside, guys, I'm going to reference the Volkswagen ID4 quite a bit in this video. So if you don't know what that car looks like on the interior, I have a complete exterior and interior tour on my channel, so link in the description box down below. Watch that video if you want to know what that car looks like before watching this video. Okay, so let's take a step inside and open up the door. And the door actually is the part of this interior that is the most similar to the ID4. There aren't too many differences, but there are a few. First off, this being a Skoda, you have an umbrella in the door that you can use. It's not the most elegant solution. It's just really just stuffed in there, but that's nice having an umbrella. And then you have the door itself, where the design isn't too different from the ID4, but there are a few differences. So first off, you have soft touch plastics up top of the door, but the type of soft touch plastics is much higher quality and nicer both to the eye, and it feels much nicer than what you have in the ID4. And it's also black compared to the gray you have in the ID4. That just looks a bit cheap. And the ID4 does have soft touch plastics, but the quality of these soft touch plastics just barely qualifies, in my opinion, as soft touch plastics. It's one of the cheapest feeling soft touch plastics, in my opinion, where this fabric this soft touch plastic here is quite nice and quite interesting. It feels nice to the touch, and it actually feels high quality. And it wouldn't feel out of place in a much more expensive car. And then you have below that, you have this piano black trim here, which I'm not the hugest fan of piano black trim, but when it's used correctly, it actually works, and looks nice. Like here, where it's high up in the door, this isn't a touch point, so it stays clean, it stays scratch free. And then you have the door handle here, the door release, which is a nice chrome bit here. It looks nice. The design, it's nice and flowy. And I do like the design of this. It reminds me a bit of how Audi do it, where, the top portion, just curves downwards. There's several Audis do that. And then you have the panel behind here, which is hard touch plastics, but it does have this interesting pattern, which just, gives the door another layer. And then you have this here, which is faux leather or leatherette or vinyl or whatever you want to call it. Faux leather, which actually feels quite nice to the touch and actually elevates the cabin, is soft to the touch. And it extends all the way from the front of the door, because this section here is not exposed while we close the door. And then it extends, quite a bit back here. And the ID4 does have this same, trim piece, but it doesn't extend all the way from the front like that. I just like, it just looks interesting. It looks nice. And then you have maybe the worst part of the door that a lot of people are, picky about and are criticizing this car about, and I totally understand that. And that is the door handle here being of hard touch plastic. And actually, I don't mind that too much, though it would be nice if it was a different material. but because the alternative in the Volkswagen ID4 is this section here is covered by glossy black plastic, where it just gets dirty because you're touching it all the time, every time you go in and out of the car. And also it does get scratchy a lot because it's also a touch point that you're using all the time. So in the last car I had, the ID4, this was just dirty and scratched up. It just looked ugly after, yeah, 5,000-6,000 kilometers. And also here you have a full array of buttons for the front and rear doors, where in the ID cars you have, you know, the front windows, and you have to press a button to go to the switches for the rear doors. Here you have, you know, your typical classical layout, and that is very, very nice. And then you have the lower part of the door, which is, yeah, hard touch plastic. You have the speaker grill here, which is of an interesting pattern, and also up top here. So, you know, overall, this is where the ID4 and the Enyaq are the most similar, though I think the Enyaq looks a bit better. I do prefer the design, and also I do prefer the materials, but that is the most similar part of the interior. And guys, if you came back from the ID4 video, be ready to be amazed, because when I, you know, turn around the camera here, yeah, this is something completely different. And I have a hard time, you know, understanding or believing people that have said, I drove both the ID4 and the Enyaq, and yeah, I don't see any difference in the interior, or I think the ID4's interior is nicer. Okay, you may do that. We're all different. You know, I'm not gonna tell people that their subjective opinion is wrong, because yeah, subjective is subjective. I have subjective opinions all the time that people are not in agreement with, but we can look at this objectively. So first off, the soft touch plastics on top of the door is the same type as we have, or on top of the dashboard is the same type as we have on the door. So this is just objectively higher quality and looks nicer in my opinion. Well, I just said in my opinion objectively, but I would go as far to say that this material is objectively nicer than what you find in the ID4. And then you have on top of the dashboard, this does have, you know, the leather interior, but even if you don't get the leather interior, you still get fabric here. So here you have leather, or it's called Eco Olive Leather. So I maybe think that's maybe some type of vegan material. Eco Olive Leather, I'm not sure, but it looks nice. I mean, it's high quality. But yeah, this is, the dashboard is covered with this, and that is stitched. I mean, that is luxury car level finish. Not a lot of cars in this class of vehicle will give you a, even though it's faux leather, it's covered in the dashboard instead of hard touch plastics, and then it also has this contrast stitching. Yeah, that just looks nice. And then you have this glossy black plastic here, and then you have the chrome trim around. I mean, I think this just looks premium. It feels like a premium vehicle. And then we're going to dive more into the interior there. But then we have the driver's seat here, which, like the ID4, this has the same ergo seat, the comfort seat, though this does not have the massage function. I saw that now. Maybe you can get that as an option. But this is basically the same seat, though this seat top reminds me a lot, you know, this pattern here, this shoulder pattern, and also the headrest reminds me a lot of the seats I had in my Audi A4. So, you know, there's several things tying in from Audi design language that you have here in this Skoda Enyaq. And these are not the only parts, but you have the seat, you have the door. So, you know, immediately it just feels and looks a bit more premium in my opinion. And then you have this chocolate colored leather that I think this is lovely. This is lovely. If you don't like it, you can have black, but yeah, this with the contrast stitching, the contrast piping, and the patterns, the perforated part in the middle, I think this wouldn't look out of place in a BMW or an Audi. I mean, come on guys, this looks so nice, and it's comfortable. And then you have the steering wheel, which also, you know, has physical buttons. You have a scroll wheel for your volume. And guys, I have a whole video on the infotainment system and, you know, the primary and secondary controls of the steering wheel, and also on the dashboard about this car. So if you want to check that out, link in the description box down below. I'm not going to dive into that here. But what I'm going to show you is that the cruise control switch there, down there, that stock, is like you have on an Audi. It's functions similar to on my Audi e-tron and the Audi A4 I had before that. So I mean, that's just more things that ties into that whole Audi theme. So let's take a step inside. And okay, let's see. So this screen is also bigger. This is 13 inches versus 12 inches in the ID4. I don't mind that. I actually think it's a bit too big, and in the ID4 it's angled against you. So I do prefer the screen size and also the screen placement in the ID car. But yeah, the infotainment system here is better. But from this perspective, you have, you know, leather there on the dashboard. It wraps around here. I mean, how can you think that the ID4 has an interior that is even close to this? Because just the top of the dashboard, guys, just the top, from the top parts of the door, you know, following this line here, is so much nicer than in the ID4. I mean, it's not even close. But then you move down, and where the ID4 is just, again, if you came from that video, be ready to be amazed, because yeah, look at this, guys. So in the ID4, you just have, you know, simple a console here with just glossy black plastic. That's it, simple. But here, guys, you have, look at that. This is covered in leather and stitched. Look at this, all the way down here. What car that is not a premium vehicle has this? I mean, what car has that? I don't know of any car. I mean, the last car I saw something like this was my last Volvo XC90. Yeah, and that's a car that's pretty expensive and pretty premium. So I mean, this Enyaq is the same price as the ID4. So I mean, this is just amazing. This is on a completely different level to the ID4. It's wrapped all the way down here. Look at that, guys, all the way down here. So you're not touching any hard touch plastics, well, other than the grab handle there. And I do understand people's critique about that. But here, physical buttons. These are nice and clicky. You know, like something you would find in a 2000s Audi. You know, you have this chrome strip here also that complements the piano black plastic. And you do have piano black plastic here, but it's not too much. It's not too hard to keep clean. It's used spartanly. And then you have chrome bits here that just looks nice. It just looks nice. The design here is functional. It doesn't look like they just, you know, drew and then, you know, called it a day, where they just put a few cup holders. This is thought through. So you have your wireless charging pad there. You have a pad there where you can put your phone and other stuff. You have USB-C connectors. You have the storage here. You have the cup holders here. I mean, this is just very nice. And then you have this shifter. That is the same shifter pretty much than what you find in an Audi e-tron GT. So more of that Audi stuff. And then you have this armrest. So on the ID cars, you have the captain chairs, but it just looks cheap. I do like the functionality, but this is large and huge and adjustable. Yeah, this is also like I have in my Audi, though I can adjust it lengthwise in my Audi. Here you can't, but I mean, it's so long. I think you're going to be, you have to be pretty short and sit forward into the steering wheel to be, you know, bothered by that. And then you have, you know, large storage bins here where you also have this, yeah, you can just store stuff like that. I mean, it's really thought out. It's really practical, and it's just very nice. And then in this car, you don't have the glass roof, but you have a proper panoramic sunroof where you can open up the front portion. And again, that's something you often only find in luxury cars, because where the cheaper cars, you know, have the glass panel roof, which is cheaper to produce, this gives you the option to open up, and that's a much more expensive option that you would, you know, find in BMWs, Mercedes, Audi, Volvo. Yeah, you may be, I don't think you can even get that in the ID4. I'm pretty sure that has a fixed glass roof. So I mean, look at this, guys. Look at this. It's, you know, just looking at it, it just looks nicer than the interior in the ID. But once you start touching it with the leather, you know, covered center console here, with the switchgear that's nice and mechanical, the armrest here, yeah, the seats. This is just a nice place to be. I'm going to show you quickly, guys, before we end the video, just the second row here, or the back seat, where, yeah, just it is hard touched here, hard touch. But you do have these peasant blockers that are stuck. Okay, okay. They're not working. This is a press car, so they're not treated nicely. Though I'm not going to, you know, I'm not going to apologize for the car. But yeah, this is hard to touch, but a lot of cars do that. I mean, a lot of cars do that. But though this is nicer, and you have that glossy black plastic there, and then you have, yeah, a beautiful, that chocolate leather here with the stitching. And also here, guys, you can see some of that interior mood lighting, which does look very nice at night. And also you have tri-zone climate control, heated rear seats. So yeah, I mean, overall, guys, after watching this video, do you still think that the ID4 has a nicer interior than this? I mean, in my opinion, this is closer to my Audi e-tron than it is to the ID4. Really, guys, this is such a nicer interior, and it has a different design language. I mean, you could probably prefer the design language in the ID car, though I think it's so simple that it looks unfinished. It looks cheap. Well, here it's just, it's very nice. So there we have it, guys. That was, well, my video where I'm making the case that I think and why I think this interior is better than the interior in the ID4. Do you still disagree with me after watching this video? And if you do, well, let me know in the comment section down below, because I would be very interested in knowing. So guys, I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, please drop me a thumbs up down below. And for more car content, as always, guys, please subscribe. See you guys later, and goodbye.
Cloudless skies in the mid